What's up, YouTube? I want to make this video. It's pretty much me revisiting Kenshin 3 years after I finished, 4 or 3 years after I finished reading it, 1, 2 after rereading it. And the reason I decided to do this was because if you guys don't know, now you know, I've been going through a lot of series that were on my backlog, and I've just been trying to get them out of the way because I have a little time right now. So I ended up going through Berserk and the Yoshida no Joe manga and Ghost in the Shell, Standalone Complex, all that made my top 10 in some capacity. And also with the recent developments in Toriko, I've been trying to change around, certain series in my lists, how much I like them and stuff. And one of the things that I noticed was that Kenshin isn't actually like one of my, it's not in my top 10 anymore as far as favorites go. Maybe even in terms of like how good I think it is. Um, and that's not to say I don't like Kenshin. I still like Kenshin. I wouldn't say I love Kenshin anymore. As after rereading it, as of October 21st, 2016, but I still like it. If I were to make a top 15, top 20 manga list, I'm sure it would probably make it in there somewhere. I just have to give it a little thought. But um, I guess I'm making this manga because I guess I feel like not many people have talked about the criticism of Rurouni Kenshin. I guess, or they've never really tried to criticize Rurouni Kenshin. I guess, and I don't know. I guess just me revisiting the whole Uber Hikari's video about how he thinks Kenshin is the greatest manga ever. I guess that kind of spurred me on to make this too a little bit. But yeah, mainly it's because of like how my list of my favorite series has been changing. So I thought it would just I just thought it'd be an interesting video to make. But anyway, so yeah, I still like Kenshin. I still like it. Like I still like the characters. I still like Kenshin as a character. I still like Yahiko and how he grows. I like Sanosuke. I like Aoshi. I like Saito. I like Hiko Seijiro. I like Shishio. I like Megumi. And fuck you, James. I do like Shishio if you're watching. I like Shishio. I like Megumi. I like Tomoe. So I still like the characters. Um, but uh, my problems come from other things besides the characters. There's a few that I find are lame, but there are other things that I like and dislike. For instance, like the Tomoe flashback, I really like. Sano's fights I thought were really good against Anji and Banjin. Anji in the Shishio arc and Banjin in the Inishi arc, they were great. And then him when he meets his father in the his father and his two little sister, or his little sister and his little brother, I think, in the Jinshu arc, the Inishi arc, and how he fights off those 200 men. Um, those were great parts, and so it's not that I don't have anything good to say about Kenshin. I think there are still good qualities to Kenshin, but for me, that like a lot of I've started, at least for me, there was a lot of things that stood out to me when I reread it this time around. So one of those things was like cheesy dialogue and moments, very overdramatic, and I felt like it felt contrived almost a little bit. So when Kenshin fights Inishi at the end of the manga, there's this whole theme that he's been that's goes there's this whole a question that he's been trying to answer throughout the arc about um, what's his answer to, like, when someone asks him how he's going to atone for his life as a Hitokiri and for killing Tomoe, how he's going to atone for that, and then he gives this answer about how he's going to use his sword to fulfill his struggling life or something like that. It's how he's going to fight continuously as he struggles in his life, which was a great answer. I think it was a tad bit overdramatic, but it's a great answer. But the problem that I have with that is right after you see like the reactions of the people who are watching the fight, like Kaoru and Yahiko and Sanosuke and all of them, and Kaoru starts crying, and I felt like that was just contrived and very overdramatic, and I just thought that was like it made me groan and cringe almost. And the one thing that I noticed about Kaoru's character, even though I don't hate Kaoru, but the thing that I noticed about Kaoru and Misao for that matter is that the fact that there's a lot of moments with them like shedding tears, and there's also a lot of moments with them like yelling, like in Kaoru's case Kenshin or in Misao's case Aoshi, whenever they're on whenever they're shown on panel, and whenever I see that, it just makes me groan. You'd almost think that both of those characters were like, if you guys have seen Hokuto no Ken, Fist of North Star, you'd almost think that they were like, what's her name, Rin, when she always yells like Ken, Ken, Ken. You'd almost think like they were the Kenshin equivalents of that. So but it's not to say that I don't hate them. I still like them as characters. Kaoru and how she tries to uphold her dojo's name with the passing of her father and all that. I like all that, but it's just like when those moments of her crying and being like overly sentimental about Kenshin, those tend to be like the moments I remember the most about her. Um, and so that's one criticism I have: the cheesy dialogue and the moments. There's a lot of them in my opinion, but I also don't. I also find some of the characters lame. Not so. I just said like some of the characters that I like, but there's a lot of characters that I find lame in the series, which are like Raijuda, because I have no idea what he was thinking with his plan. The four generals that fought Kenshin's allies before Kenshin himself fought Inishi kind of felt anticlimactic, as not just as fights, but just as villains also, just as people. They were too easily defeated, and the pacing of that fight was just way too fast. And pacing of the fights is something that I want to talk about like later, but so those people were lame. The three Jupangatna members who attacked Okina and Kaoru and Yahiko and all of them when Kenshin, Sanosuke, and Saito, and I guess Aoshi by extension, were at Mount Hiei. Those three Jupangatna members were all basically worthless as far as I'm concerned. Like Kamakiri, who was the scythe boy, the transvestite crossdresser, Henya, who was the crow guy that fought Yahiko, and then Iwanbo. Even though Iwanbo plays a later role in the uh, in the next arc, in the Jinchu arc, but there is a lot of lame characters that I felt that they were just there just to be fodder, and I guess I can go into now. I'll talk about the pacing of the fights. There a lot of fights in this series are just way too fast, and I don't like that because especially when you talk about the final fights with Shishio and Inishi, those fights are way too fast, bro. Like I can read those in like 10 minutes each tops. Maybe it's because I'm a fast reader, 10 or 15 minutes. But the problem is like when I think about great like the and I don't want to make it seem like I'm an action whore, but because this is a battle shonen, this is a shonen. Like fighting is a big part of it, right? So, um, because Kenshin is a swordsman. Like, why would you say he's a swordsman if there's no like sword fighting, right? So, to me, I don't want to make it seem like I'm an action whore, but to me, like fighting is a big part. Like, not only this, but just of any other battle shonen. It's something that's important to me because that kind of it doesn't dictate the whole course of the manga. I mean, you can have good characters and good story, but maybe not have the best fights, which is okay. But that still knocks some points off, at least for me, the way that I score it. But in the case of Shishio and Inishi here, especially, I just feel like the fighting it's not climactic enough, and that's kind of a shame for me because Shishio is such a good villain. He's such a good character, and I feel like his fight was just way too quick. It's way too quick, and Inishi's also. At least the final fight is the fight that Inishi has with Kenshin at the Kamiya dojo. That's pretty well done, I would say, because he actually beats the Amakekuru Ryu no Hirameki. Um, but anyway, that Shishio fight, like the one thing that I always think that final villains should do is that they should be allowed to flex their muscles before they enter a final fight. Because if the final fight's their only fight, then I feel like that's kind of this is just a personal thing, but I feel like that's kind of like not so much a waste of the character. I don't want to say that waste of the character isn't the right term, but it's more like I felt like they should have shown there should be moments before that, before they have their final battle to flex their muscles and to show what they're capable of. And not even to be like pushed to the brink or anything like that, just to be able to show like what they're capable of more than anything. And with Shisha we didn't really get that. And I thought that Kenshin being having to fight Aoshi and Seijiro before he fought Shishio kind of made Shishio look weak in comparison at the end. But then I realized that that the fact that he has burns all over his body and the fact that he has bandages and that he's still being affected by those burns to this day, and because he still suffers from them, I think that juxtaposes with the fatigue that Kenshin obtained from those previous two fights. So I thought that was something that I was going to hold against it, but I didn't. So I thought that was good. But anyway, back to the pacing of the fights. I just not only the fights with Shishio and Inishi, the final fight with Inishi on the beach. are too fast, but just like fights in general are way too fast for me. Like Kaoru versus Kamatari, Yahiko versus Henya, Hiko versus Fuji, Usui versus Saito. The final fight, I already said the final fights with Inishi and Shishio. And I think that was one thing that was maybe corrected later in the Jinshu arc when Yahiko fought Otowa and when Sanosuke fought Banjin. But just looking like at all the previous fights before that, I felt like some stuff was just like even Saito versus what's his name, Yatsume, the other member of the Six Comrades, the guy with the long ass left arm. He like pretty much like the fact that these fights happen way too easy, like way too fast, and that they're resolved way too fast, makes me feel like the villains themselves are like fodder when it comes to fighting. Like I can't take them that seriously, especially with Yatsume, because he's a part of the Yaminobu and all that. And obviously, he plays a role in the whole Tomoe flashback, which was great. But the fact that Saito goes and just uses a couple Gatotsus and then uses a Gatotsu Zero to decide the whole fight right at the end. And I feel like that's just the resolution of these fights are just way too quick for me. And I feel like it just kind of demeans the villains just as actual, just to make me to believe them to be to be actual threats. Because I look at Dragon Ball villains. I look at Rao from Fist of the North Star. I look at Toguro and Sensui and like all these different villains across all the various, not only shonen but just like series that I've read, and they've all had like pretty good climactic battles. Like the feeling that I left after I finished reading those fights was like one of satisfaction. But after I read the fights in this manga, I don't get satisfaction from it, and this may be controversial, but I don't care. I actually like the Shishio fight more than I do in the anime now because of that, because of how I read it in the manga. I think because the anime I think extends that fight a little more, uh, not only gracefully, but it extends it more so that I can feel more satisfied after I finish watching the fight. Like I feel more satisfied watching that fight more than I do reading the fight, and that may be because of the length of the fight in the anime, but that's just me. And another problem that I have is that I feel like some moments in the manga are way too overdramatic. And an example is like when when Banjin and Otowa attacked the Kamiya dojo in the Jinshu arc, Yahiko said that Sano is the only one who doesn't need Kenshin's protection when he fights Banjin. And there was some dialogue before that was just about like Kenshin saying like he's not going to help Sano, and then Yahiko and Kaoru and Megumi who are watching have like this extended discourse about like how what does Kenshin mean by that? What does he mean by that? Why did he say that? And it's just like contrived and cliche to me. So that was there's a lot of overdramatic moments like that where you just see like a panel of like the character's back and then like leaves flowing like in the wind or something like that. And I don't I like those moments, but when they feel a lot when they don't feel contrived and they feel like a lot more natural within the scope of the story. Um, so yeah. Another thing I don't like, which I've probably talked about before in streams, is the romance. I don't like that Kenshin is 28 and that Kaoru is 17. Dude, I'm sorry. That's just pedophilic. I'm sorry. 11-year difference. Seriously. And I understand like it's ancient Japan, like the legal age of marriage was like 15 or something, but I don't care. Like that's still no, that shouldn't happen. That should not happen. I'm sorry, no. I do prefer Tomoe as a character to Kaoru. Uh, what's his name? Sanosuke and Megumi being a couple is kind of weird too because Megumi I think is like 10 years older than him or something like that. And I think he's like 19 maybe. Sanosuke is like 19 in the Kenshin series and Megumi is like 31. So that's also weird. And yeah, so I don't really unless it's like Yahiko and Tsubame, which they're like a similar age. I don't know. That's the thing to me. Like age to me when it comes to romance is just a bit. That might be people say age is just a number, but fuck that. Like nah, I'm nah, fuck that. So another thing that makes me kind of like not dislike Kenshin. I don't want to say dislike Kenshin, but makes me kind of pissed off a little bit is that Kenshin cuts his hair at the end, and I don't like that because he looks so much more better with the long hair. And so yeah, so there's a lot of like small moments like that that make me really that made me realize like why Kenshin has dropped out of my top 10 favorite series. But that's not to say that I still don't consider it one of my favorite series. It's like I said, it'd probably still be in my top favorite 15 or 20 series if I made a list. And with all the things that I said earlier, there's still stuff like Yahiko and how he develops during the Jinshu arc, and how he becomes more confident, and how he tries to chase Kenshin as a goal, which I really like. And then um, the shocking panel of Kaoru's quote unquote death in the Jinshu arc, when you see that with Anishi's sword through her chest, or through the fake doll's chest, I should say. So I mean, there's still a lot of good stuff, and the thing about Inishi is I don't like him, but I don't like him in the good way. I still think he's a well written character. I just don't think that he's uh, there's a lot of stuff that makes him feel like bratty more than anything, and I feel like that takes away from the character a little bit. But that's not to say that I don't think Anishi's a bad villain at all, but I still say that Shishio is much better. And Inishi's plan for revenge, his Jinchu plan, I think was just like perfect. Um, so yeah, Kenshin is still a good series. It's just not in my top 10 anymore. And the same goes with Toriko. And this isn't really a Toriko video, because I think everyone can see like what's wrong with Toriko now, with all like the different explanations for powers which really don't have any meaning anymore, and this and that, and Akase being a villain, which I think should not have happened, and Neo's ugly ass form, which isn't very. I mean, you can still make something look like a parasite and not make it look like stupid and retarded, but um, anyway, anyway, I can talk about Toriko when it finishes, I guess, unless we get like a space arc, especially given today's chapter. Oh my goodness, I don't know what's going on with Toriko. Anyway, unless we get like an explanation for like what's happening, if we get a space arc later after Akase is defeated. But um, I guess I can talk about like what's taken over. So Berserk and One Piece are now in my top 10 favorite series, at least manga. So yeah, I don't know. Maybe this is just primarily a Kenshin video and like how I feel about it 3 years after I made those videos. So I'm gonna be deleting those other videos to the Kyoto arc and the Jinshu arc review, because they have things that they have that's me, like I don't feel the same way about Kenshin now that I did back then. So those are gone. But yeah, anyway, tell me what you guys think. I still have to figure out where to put Ippo in my favorite series, but yeah, Kenshin to me, like it's not like I honestly, like, this is just me speaking straight from the heart, but Dragon Ball, Yu Yu Hakusho, One Piece, and JoJo's Bizarre Adventure, I think they're just like, out of all the quote unquote weak shonen, well, and actually no, I'm not gonna say it's a weak shonen, but out of all the shonen that came out during the 90s, I don't think Kenshin is quite what you would call excellent. I still think that the Frankenstein manga that Watsuki made is probably going to be much better if the other chapters get translated. But yeah, tell me what you guys think about Kenshin now, if your feelings have changed, because mine certainly have. So thank you guys for watching, and I will see you guys next time.